Hello, Anka Daily News viewers. We continue to share with you remarkable developments in the shadow of the war. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia is revealing major problems not only on the front lines, but also behind the front lines. This time, our focus is on the growing internal problems in the Russian army and how they directly affect the course of the war. The military organization of an army must be based on a strict sense of discipline. However, the latest information shows that this discipline has been seriously undermined in the Russian army. One of the most concrete examples of this breakdown is the behavior of the soldiers brought over from North Korea and the problems they face in terms of discipline. The drunken behavior of soldiers leads to serious breaks in the chain of command and chaotic situations. This makes the coordination of operations in the field difficult and sometimes even impossible. There is ample evidence to show that these developments are not just a few isolated incidents, but rather an indication of a systematic unraveling. Details such as the deterioration of military discipline, declining morale, increasing logistical problems, and the failure to follow orders from command centers indicate that the Russian army is gradually losing control. Interestingly, this situation is not limited to the soldiers on the front line. Similar disorganization is also taking place in the military bureaucracy. So, how does this chaotic situation affect the course of the war? How does this internal unraveling in the Russian army change the balance on the front line? What does it mean for Russia's war strategy that even military units identified with North Korean discipline are moving away from this order? Let's take a look at the developments together. Before we get to our report, a quick reminder, the Anka Daily News team is definitely real. Neither me nor any of my colleagues are artificial intelligence. Even though AI is very advanced, it's still not as good as us. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. We do read all the comments you leave on our videos, so please continue to share your ideas about our content. Tell us in the comments what content you'd like to see on the Anka Daily News channel. And now let us begin if you're ready. Anka Daily News reports. One of the first concepts that comes to mind when you think of North Korea is strict discipline and strict military training. The totalitarian regime led by Kim Jong-un trains its soldiers to absolute obedience and a punitive hierarchy. But the behavior of these soldiers serving on Russian soil or in occupied Ukrainian territories is shattering the image of discipline that Pyongyang presents to the outside world. In recent weeks, leaks from military chat groups in the Tuva region of eastern Russia have revealed that North Korean soldiers behave uncontrollably, often getting drunk, engaging in clashes with civilians, and stealing. These soldiers are reportedly demoralizing Russian troops and causing serious fear among the local population. Messages posted on the private channel of Tuva Troops reveals that military discipline has almost completely collapsed among North Korean soldiers. In the messages in question, it stated that over the last month, there have been 15 cases of drunkenness, 4 fights, 2 immoral crime attempts, and 7 thefts. This has led even Russian soldiers to fear their North Korean allies. According to the channel, it's scary to turn your back on them. You don't even want to give them weapons. These findings show that North Korean soldiers, which the Kremlin regards as disciplined reinforcements, have in fact become a security risk on the front line. While the increasing insecurity among Russian soldiers disrupts coordination on the front line, it's stated that some soldiers are trying to stay away from North Korean troops. North Korean soldiers are reported to consume alcohol heavily, especially at night, threaten people in local villages and towns, and in many places attempt to harass women. While most of these incidents have been covered up by the Russian military leadership, messages circulating among frontline soldiers suggest that the reality is very different. According to some sources, the Pyongyang regime is suffering a great loss of prestige because its troops have become so out of control, while the Russian side fears that withdrawing these troops would upset the military balance. It's claimed that the Kremlin is trying to prevent the events from being reflected in the press instead of punishing the soldiers who exhibit undisciplined behavior. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began in 2022, lasted much longer than expected, forcing the Kremlin to take mobilization steps. However, the huge reaction from the public and the low participation in the army brought the search for alternative manpower to the agenda. At this point, North Korea stepped in, the Kim Jong-un administration, seeking to bolster its political support with economic and military aid, has sent around 11,000 soldiers to Russia. Their main task was to provide logistical support behind the front lines, transport ammunition and weapons, dig trenches, and take part in some low-intensity conflict zones. However, many of these troops have turned out to be a nuisance, exhibiting uncontrolled, disobedient, and harmful behavior. One of the North Korean regime's most important propaganda arguments to the world to date has been its unshakable military discipline. The behavior of the soldiers in Russia, whom Kim Jong-un saw off ceremoniously, has severely damaged this image both domestically and internationally. Experts interpret the fact that North Korean soldiers have become uncontrollable in such a short period of time as discipline only works under pressure and disappears as soon as there is freedom. The civilian population's fear of these troops, especially in the occupied territories, belies Russia's claims of protecting the population. In some regions, Russian commanders are even reported to have forged permission documents to remove North Korean soldiers from their posts and to have tried to send them to remote villages. The Russian army, which was considered to be superior both technologically and in terms of manpower at the beginning of the war, has suffered a major loss of reputation over the last 2 years, not only on the front line, but also in the eyes of the world community. The succession of military failures, the Wagner rebellion, the chaos of mobilization, and now the scandals involving North Korean soldiers are further damaging this image. This latest crisis involving North Korean soldiers could also be a serious test for Moscow-Pyongyang relations. While the Kremlin tries to hide these problems from the public, the situation is quite different for Russian soldiers on the front line. Growing mistrust, lack of coordination, and criminal incidents are making the war even more difficult to manage. While the withdrawal of North Korean troops from the front seems a distant prospect for the time being, Russian commanders continue to try to use these troops in passive missions as much as possible. However, it's unclear how much control can be maintained in an environment where discipline has collapsed to such an extent. The Kremlin's struggle with these internal problems while trying to make the front look strong creates a crisis dynamic that could directly affect the course of the war. What do you think? Do you think the Russian army can handle a new wave of drunken soldiers? Let us know in the comments. We read and care about your points of view.